I am reviewing every single X-Men movie ahead of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and folks, today we're having our first dive into mediocrity. Let's go. When the human government develops a cure for mutations, the lines of war are drawn between the X-Men led by Charles Xavier and the Brotherhood led by Magneto, while Jean Grey mysteriously returns holding a seemingly uncontrollable power. But before I properly start with my review for X-Men The Last Stand, let me know your thoughts and reaction to it down in the comments below. When did you first experience this film? Have your thoughts throughout the years ever changed, gone up, gone down, anything and everything down there? And if you like movies and TV and don't want to miss any of these reviews ahead of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, consider clicking that subscribe button so you don't miss any future conversations on your favorite movies and TV. And this is the first film in the series that was not directed by Bryan Singer. At the time, he very infamously left to direct Superman Returns, and both in regards to this film and that film, I think we all wish he had just stuck around. He himself says he regrets this decision. He was replaced by Brett Ratner, who is a competent director, but an equally problematic human being. And in all fairness, when I usually do reviews, I go by the things I like in a film, what works, and I leave my issues towards the end. This is a very weird movie, where nothing about it is good, nothing about it is bad. For every good moment, every great scene, there's a baffling character choice or line of dialogue or complete opposite bad scene that follows. So it's a film that is entirely mixed. Nothing is really good, nothing is really bad. There are moments of light, of good stuff in this, but it's a very tough film to talk about in that usual structure. And everything just blends together in the mixed territory. The film continues that streak of great openings for all these movies, those impactful scenes that just lead you right on. This film, however, has 3 different openings, which is in itself an illustration of many of the film's issues. The scene I would call the cold open, where we have a young Charles and Eric, more like plastic looking Charles and Eric, visiting a young Jean Grey, is quite insightful. It opens the doors for what the film will kind of deal with. It doesn't really do anything for Jean as a character, and that's a big problem in this film, but it continues to show us the friendship, the respect between these two characters in Charles and Eric, and it continues to show us their contrasting ideologies as they meet this young girl. And while Xavier grows fearful and hesitant, Magneto is excited. He's proud of the potential this young girl can achieve. And it's also the first scene that presents us to the theme of the film regarding power and the control of said power, where no amount of power is inherently good or evil, but it is to be used for one purpose or another. I'd argue the film itself doesn't really treat this thematic through line with nuance or as a discussion like the previous films did, but it's an interesting enough theme that is present throughout the entire runtime of the film, and that is interesting, at least as it is presented in this scene, which then cuts to the second opening of the film. And that's the angel scene, which is grotesque and powerful. It captures the themes of oppression and fear ever so present in these films to great effect with just its visuals, even the dialogue in it aside. But because it's a new character, it doesn't really fully work. It doesn't fully immerse us in the film and the story it's going to tell, because Angel in the film is basically a glorified cameo. He's played fantastically by Ben Foster, but he has like 3 or 4 scenes. Which then leads us into the third opening of the film after the title card, and that is the Danger Room sequence, which is so much fun. These films have always had fun, exciting action, and in here doesn't falter. It's just fun to see the team dynamic at play, see how they work together. We even get the fastball special, we get a Sentinel head cameo, and we get presented to a little bit of the drama and the conflict that is going to be present in this film about whether or not Logan is prepared to be a teacher to guide younger mutants to a better future. We get presented to the conflict between Rogue and Bobby and Kitty Pryde, the love triangle, so that's gonna work out great. But in general, these small character moments within a greater action sequence have always stood out in this franchise for the better. Speaking of characters, this film introduces way too many fucking characters. We have Beast, incredibly played by Kelsey Grammer, I might say. He is amazing. What an inspired choice, and what great makeup. To this day, the look still holds up. Not only him in the suit, not only the makeup itself, but even in the action near the end, his outfit as an X-Men, I think it's really cool, and honestly the most colorful out of anyone on the team. But we also get to meet Leech and Angel, like I said, and Kitty Pryde and Juggernaut, and all the jobbers that Magneto recruits for his army with Arclight and everyone else. And it's just so many characters that this film doesn't know what to do with. Not only that, it leaves other characters to get the shaft, and that includes Cyclops. As much as I love the previous films, I cannot defend their treatment of Cyclops, but this film is definitely the biggest sinner in that regard. This is one of the seminal X-Men characters that got treated worse and worse as the films went by. He's basically here in the last stand only to die, as he goes to Alkali Lake and meets Jean, who's back to life with a completely different hairstyle, by the way. It's a scene that doesn't really serve the story. It serves the plot of the film so it can advance. She's there, she kills Scott, unceremoniously so, and then the X-Men get a signal through Charles because he feels Jean is back. But as a story, it doesn't really serve Jean well. She's supposed to be this all-powerful force. But the first character she kills is Scott. It's a character that has not been shown as extremely powerful or treated with an amount of respect regarding his powers in this film. So it's not that impressive when she kills him. And we don't get to feel that much because I just don't think the relationship was ever explored in a complex and nuanced way. Unlike many of the other things these films have done in a nuanced and complex way. And Jean herself is a character in the film that I feel very conflicted about. There are some things about her that really work. There are some things about her that really don't work. For once, I think Famke Janssen does a great job with this character. She has to emote a lot. A lot of times she doesn't have lines. She's just standing there, and I warn you, I'm going to complain a lot about her just standing there. But she does a great job. She has to emote just with her eyes. She has to say a lot just with her eyes. And she's treated as this all-powerful force, neither for good nor for evil. She's treated ambiguously so, which I think very much reinforces the theme of the film about power and whose is it to control. Because of that, there's this sense of mystery, tension, and fear, which once more positions Magneto and Xavier at the heart of the film's conflict. And a really fun scene that illustrates that beautifully is the scene where they go to Jean's house, Xavier and Magneto, both with their forces there standing by, but it's only the two of them. They go in as friends like they once did in the opening scene of the film. And this scene obviously leads to Charles trying to control her, and Jean ends up killing Charles Xavier in the first effective showing of her true power. This is a great scene because we understand the stakes. We understand the toll this takes on characters and the world around them because of the main conflict about the cure and taking this power, trying to control it. Even the moment when Charles is hanging around in the air and Magneto, who gets thrown away, he just pleads with Jean. He screams no, he screams Charles's name. almost as if his conscience in this world has been taken. Now there's nothing to stop him, which makes the following moment more frustrating, where right after his friend died, his best friend in the world, the person he trusted the most, gets taken away. And he's just done. He doesn't feel anything. There's no mourning. There's no remorse. There's nothing about Charles's death that changes Magneto like it changes the course of action the X-Men take after this. And that's a very grating issue I have with this film. And the character of Magneto as a whole, the way he is written in this film, I find extremely upsetting. But I will get to Magneto in a bit. Jean Grey herself, as a character, played very well again by Famke Janssen. She's just not an interesting character, and the tension that is built throughout the film with her is barely released. She continues to be one of the blandest characters in the franchise. Even her magnificent powers are so visually uninteresting. She just fucking stands there with some eyeshadow every once in a while, and then everything around her happens, but she just stays there. The only reason she visually stands out in this film is because she's one of the very few characters who's not dressed in all black and has this bright red dressing on her. It's baffling how this film just leaves her in the back burner. The Phoenix Force, the thing that Magneto covets and chases all through this film, and she's just left there looking at shit happening. But I also need to acknowledge that Jean Grey's character is not even the worst character in this film. Magneto, played once again very well by Ian McKellen. He's written very strangely. He constantly delivers these snarky one-liners that have him come across as like a parody of himself from what he was in the previous films. And his character choices in this film are entirely baffling, to say the least. His abandonment of Mystique, for one, while aligning with his ideology, doesn't change him, doesn't shake him emotionally whatsoever. It has the same issue that Charles's death has, where it doesn't send him into a raging outburst. It doesn't remind him, for instance, of when he lost his mother, the two people he most trusted and most loved in this world, and there's no emotional reaction to it. It seems like nothing has been taken away from him, and he just keeps carrying on with his mission, and I just don't buy it for who this character is. These two relationships, they are so integral and so define who Magneto is in these films and are so important to the films themselves, and yet they change nothing about this character, so their impact is null immediately. Another issue I have is, why the fuck is he in the woods? He basically chooses to surround himself with no weapons or arsenal. This is the strategy that the government had when they put him in prison, to make him powerless. And yet in this film, he chooses to go into the woods. Now, yes, he has an army around him, but Magneto never takes anything for granted. He always has a plan B, C. He always has a fortress of potential weapons around him so he can use it when needed. He wouldn't willingly go to the woods. But my friends, it is when we get to Alcatraz, the final invasion for the third act, that I have my biggest irks with Magneto. And it is all due to one line.
In chess, the pawns go first.
Now, I know this might come across as nitpicky, but along with everything else I've talked about until now, this is an absolute betrayal of who this character is. It betrays his pathos, his ideology. It goes against everything Magneto stands for. He is for mutant kind. Obviously, there are going to be casualties in war, but he wouldn't so nonchalantly, willingly sacrifice mutant lives. He even says it so proudly, like Magneto would sacrifice mutant lives in his war against mankind, particularly when this sacrifice implies curing them of their mutanthood, which for this guy would be a fate even worse than death. And I just don't get these decisions on a script basis. The final battle feels overall very competent. There's nothing particularly memorable or noteworthy about it in regards to the action. The previous films have this constant vibrancy and energy, and this one just doesn't have that on a visual standpoint. It does have a few fun character moments, like this moment with Wolverine.
Grow those back.
And I also quite like how the X-Men come to this moral compromise of having to cure Magneto to take him down. They see no other way. They're being overtaken by Magneto and his forces. Throughout these films, they have never been able to properly defeat Magneto himself. So it's an interesting way that they use intellect and strategy to eventually take him down, sacrificing one of their own technically to just be able to save humanity. That's costly. That's character-wise very intriguing and compelling. But it's a moment, which is the thing that this film has. It has moments, but cohesion and escalation, unfortunately, is something that it doesn't have. And speaking of lack of cohesion, the use of Phoenix in this film, it just makes no sense. It's ridiculous. Magneto wanted her throughout this entire film, like, come to my side and I'll be able to win this battle with you. The X-Men were afraid of her siding with Magneto. It's constantly mentioned and paid lip service to how if Magneto has her on her side, he's unbeatable. And yet she's not used at all in this final battle until after he's dealt with, until after Magneto is out of contention. Then she comes in as almost this kind of surprise villain to everything. And I also have to go back to Phoenix as a character. Another issue is that she has no personality. She has no goal. She has no reason to side with the X-Men or Magneto at all. There's just no character logic to her presence in this. There's a good moment at the very end with Logan having dealt and struggled with deciding whether he'd be ready to kill her or not throughout the film, and the final confrontation is between them. And the love Logan has for Jean has been a very consistent thing throughout all three of these films. But in this film alone, it is all dealt in a very surface way, where even their final confrontation is a quick chat and then one stab kills the almighty Phoenix Force very quickly. It's incredibly underwhelming, and it felt like if the film had focused more on this, it would have worked out much better. Because one of the best things about any X-Men story is when the good and the evil in X-Men and the Brotherhood are forced to team up to take care together of a bigger enemy, a bigger threat that threatens to take everything away from both sides. This film doesn't have that. And that's a big issue with the entire film, where it just feels too easy, too simple, like a quick fix. The main story about the cure with Leech is not treated with a ton of complexity and nuance. Something that a story like this so desperately needs. And it's particularly clear in the Bobby and Rogue storyline, where it feels like it starts halfway through and it borrows a lot of its beats from the previous two films and what we know from there. We only see Bobby hanging out with Kitty Pryde. There's never a moment to explore if Bobby is actually interested in dating Kitty Pryde instead of Rogue, or if he's doing something to reassure Rogue that he doesn't want anything to do with Kitty Pryde. And so we only see this from Rogue's point of view. How does she see it? And is Bobby actually cheating on her, or is he just being an idiot? Because either way, if we explore that, it'd be interesting, it'd be compelling. And so the film takes away from a relationship that we got to care so much about in the previous two films. And so this entire discussion about a cure, whether it's actually a cure, it's a saving grace, or is it an abomination that takes away from what being a mutant is treated in such a one-sided manner that it lacks any realism. any relatability or insightfulness that these discussions actually need. The Last Stand discards the complexity, maturity, and nuance that made the first two films compelling character dramas about discrimination, and instead becomes a subpar, generic actioneer with no sense of stakes, character, or identity. I'm giving X-Men The Last Stand a C-. And those are my thoughts on X-Men The Last Stand. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this series of reviews, you don't want to miss any of the future X-Men reviews I bring about, click the subscribe button so you don't miss any future conversations on your favorite movies and TV. I'll be back very soon in my review for First Class, and other X-Men reviews will follow, as well as my review for the first Doctor Strange. And until Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, I'll have many more videos. So until the next one, love each other and love the movies.